that is actually the moment that where you can arise and then being able to get better with it. I felt like I kind of gone through those arches of my life. Like that's with my mother's cancer and then, her dying and then me not really knowing where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And then even buying a business for the first time. I mean, I was just overwhelmed because I came out, I had a school debt. I had to borrow every penny because, we were so in debt with my mom's hospital bills and everything. We're still making like $30 a month payment to like 10,000 different people. And then I know, right? Because that doesn't go away. And then had a house mortgage, had two kids, and then, buying a practice or starting a practice, I should say. It was just like, what am I doing? Am I going to be able to do this? Or is this something that I can do it? I mean, there was a lot of doubt in my mind. I think the only person that can really come out of that and being able to get better from that is myself.
Dr. Yooson Kim's entrepreneurial journey began as a teenager, immigrating to the United States from South Korea, where she had to learn English as a second language. Today, Dr. Yooson Kim's dental practices are at the forefront of innovation, utilizing cutting-edge technology and advanced concepts in diagnosis and treatment planning. A graduate of Franklin and Marshall College with a bachelor's degree in chemistry, Dr. Kim furthered education at the University of Pennsylvania School of Dental Medicine with an extensive research background at prestigious institutions like the National Cancer Institute and the National Institute of Health. Dr. Kim has earned accolades for her groundbreaking publications. She brings this wealth of knowledge and experience to her 9-location, multi-state private practice, where she has been providing exceptional care to her patients for over 25 years. As a certified trainer for Celea and a respected consultant and key opinion leader in the dental community, Dr. Kim remains at the forefront of emerging technologies. Her unwavering passion for advancing dentistry underscores her commitment to providing the highest quality comprehensive care to her patients. Dr. Yooson Kim is not just a dentist, she's a visionary entrepreneur shaping the future of dentistry. Let's unravel the fingerprints on success of Dr. Yooson Kim. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show today. It's great to have you all with us, and I'm so pleased to be with Dr. Yooson Kim today. Dr. Kim, thank you so much for coming and being on the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. I was actually thinking this morning that I don't even know if I should be on this show because I felt like I was getting beat up recently with all kinds of, human resources issues and people and all kinds of things. And I just almost felt like an imposter having to sit here and talk about the success or the fingerprints on success. But I'm hoping whatever I may share would be inspiring, and I'm hoping to learn from, Bill as well. To always pleasure to, having a conversation with you.
Well, we're glad to have you on, and there's no successful entrepreneur that doesn't have daily challenges. And in fact, people love to hear and share and talk about those challenges. And before we dive into that, share with everybody your story. I mean, here you are, you're a nationally recognized practitioner in dentistry. You have 9 practices, you have a Medi Spa, you lecture all around the globe. You're a thought leader. Tell us, how did you get there? Why dentistry? And tell us a little bit about your journey to get to where you are today.
Sure. So let's start half century back. I was actually born in Seoul, Korea. I immigrated to the US when I was 16. Just flew over and had to learn English just even by starting an ESL class. I didn't actually think that I was going to get to where I was going to get to looking back when I was starting first time. I actually was very inspired to be an oncologist because as soon as we moved over to the States, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. Being the first one who really grabbed onto the language, I was the translator for my mom. So I had to deal a lot with dealing with doctors, even understanding the treatment plan and having to make decisions on what needs to be done. And kind of that experience really wowed me. And I thought, this is what I want to do. This is my calling. So I was fully engaged in going into medical school and wanted to go into the medicine, and all those things were just my goal. And that's what I wanted to do. So focused. But, with a lot of the cancer patients, my mother did pass away when I was in college. So after 5 years of her struggle, she ended up passing away my first year in college. When that happened, I just got lost because the whole emotions of losing patients and having to deal with that, I just couldn't handle it. And even now, I just if somebody has cancer, if they talk about their struggles, that really hits home. So it was really difficult for me. So I kind of felt lost because I was so geared toward going to medical school, and that was my goal, and I couldn't think of anything else. So I went to my advisor at the point and said, I still want to be in medicine, but I don't want to be in the field where people are dying. And he said, yeah, there you could definitely do that. And the three fields that he recommended were eyes, teeth, and feet. And I thought, no feet. That I don't think I can do that. And eyes, even that gets me all like, ooh, that gives me heebie-jeebies. I just had LASIK done a couple of years ago, and I thought to myself, wow, if I had to do that every day, I don't know if I could do that. Teeth, I never thought about, but when I more I thought about it, I was like, that sounds very interesting. And interestingly enough, dentistry for me is a field of medicine that you're continuously engaging patients. That's a lifelong relationship you're having with patients. So I have patients who are young, and they now grew up and got married and have kids, and then they're bringing their kids in. And kind of funny to say I'm a grandma dentist, but that's what I became at the end. And you see your patients a lot more frequently, like, at least every 6 months, 3 months, and sometimes more if they have some work to be done. I don't think you can say that about any other field, even though patients really don't like to come into the dental office. You build a relationship, and it's more about that relationship that is built, and then you're able to provide the service. So those type of aspect really made me excited about knowing it's all about the relationship. It's all about building that. That just made me kind of really excited about this whole medicine aspect of things. So I changed from pre-med to pre-dental and went to dental school, and here I am. And I don't think I would look back and go do it anything differently, honestly.
Wow, what a journey, and so much to endure at such a young age too. I mean, that had to be, quite make an unbelievable impact on you as a young person to have
Yeah.
so much pressure on you. Um, Really and especially as you said, like, I didn't realize that you were a teenager when you came to the United States, and had to learn a new language, and uh really very, very remarkable. What are some, like, I guess one of the questions I'd love to ask too is, what drove you to be an entrepreneur? Because you're a clinician, you're a doctor, but you've built out 9 successful offices, which, I know just from having been around the healthcare profession as an attorney for so many years, it, makes you in the top 1/10 of 1%ers, so to speak. What do you think it is that drove you to have that kind of entrepreneurial passion?
No, I think one thing that's interesting about dentists are we're all having to be an entrepreneur. I mean, we're pushed to do that because in certain ways, when you own a business and you have to run and you're the one who has to be actually in it to do it, you have to know how to do the business. Although in dental school, I don't think we're taught that. I cannot recall a business class that I took in dental school that teaches us how to do it. But at the same time, you're dealing with people. So it's not like you're dealing with a commodity, you're dealing with sales of things. Although there are aspects of sales because you're talking about treatment plan with the patients. But ultimately, it's a people business. And I think having to have that aspect of people business of it, the care of it, and also having to run the business all together. I don't know if any of us actually have that coming out of dental school. So a lot of it is just like you're jumping right in and you're doing it and you're learning from what you have learned and then moving forward with it. So I feel in dentistry, the mentorship is very important because a lot of the doctors coming out, they all feel very confident knowing what they want to do and how they want to do it. But I don't know if they truly understand. It's not just a mechanical part of it. It's not just you're having, buddy buddies with patients. You have to have that professionalism, that fine line of a professionalism where you have to provide the care and being able to run the business. I don't know if there are other field out there that actually requires that type of characteristics that it has to all combine together. And I think some people have it and some don't. I don't really feel that I have it, but it's something that I'm constantly learning and constantly wanting to do more and better with. And of course, with all the shifting of different economical and political changes that happens, you're constantly learning more and more. And people are different nowadays too. And then as you get more, you think, oh, I've been there, done that. Next thing you know, you're like, oh, there's a new situation that I have to learn. So I think that's what's grooming me to become what we call an entrepreneur. I don't know if it's something that I thought that I would become. I don't think I even know. I don't think I even knew what that was when you even asked me 20 years ago. If you said, do you want to be an entrepreneur? I'd be like, what is that? I don't even know. I just want to do dentistry. But I think wanting to do that, wanting desire to be the better dentist and have that relational dentist that you want to be, it drove you to become that. And then once you have that, be the right mindset, your business is growing. Like, people want to stay with you because it's all about the retention of your patients and earning that trust. And then they want to be with you. Because as I said, some of these patients, they don't just go away. You treat them from day zero to all the way to whatever it's going to be. So when you have that type of retention and then people wanting to stay with you, that kind of innately start to grow the practice. And then as things are growing, I'm still learning what it means to have to do 2 to 4 to 8, and it's a constant learning process. So to me, entrepreneurship is a constant learning process. I don't think anybody can actually teach you to how to do that per se, because you're constantly learning it in your field and how it's going to be.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the right answer, but I
Well,
just feel
it's your answer, so it's got to be the right answer. You
that,
said something there was one word that you used that I find is kind of like a thread woven through so many success stories, and you said the word trust. That people, as they trust you, they stay with you, you grow. And isn't it interesting how, if you think about any business, my profession, or even a consumer business, someone who sells a product, it all goes back to developing trust with whether it's the patient, the client, the customer, that has a belief in what it is that you have to offer. And so obviously there's a lot of people. For you to have 9 locations and a med spa, and this continuing to build this entrepreneurial success, there's many people, both patients, employees, who have a lot of trust and faith in you. Do you remember the moment that you thought to yourself, because a lot of people would consider someone a successful entrepreneur who maybe they have one business or one practice and it becomes really successful and they've got lots of a great following and a great reputation, and for many people that's a success, and it kind of starts and ends there. Do you remember the moment in time when you decided, I have this successful practice, but I'm going to start another one. I'm going to have a second practice. And like was there a moment where you just felt like this inner desire that you wanted to have more than one successful business?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. I do remember that this very distinct moment because I had a doctor who was engaging me to try to become an associate doctor for my practice. This was 2014. And I looked at her, loved her. I thought it would be a great opportunity, but the location where I was, I didn't quite have enough space for her to join me. So we sat down and we talked, and I said, why don't we open up another location and then we can work together? Since I already built one successfully, I'm sure we can have this recipe and be able to replicate it to another location and then be able to do this together. Great idea. We started it. But what I didn't realize is that it's like kind of what I said earlier. If you don't have it, then you don't have it. Like this particular doctor is out of school for about 7 years, and she worked from one office to another, didn't really kind of find her footing. And then that's why she came to me. She thought she really wanted to start that family practice aspect of her career. Amazing person. I really loved her. But at the same time, it's it's like if you don't have it, you don't have it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Once you are out of school and have certain habits that you're developing, that's when I learned that unless you're in the right setting, had the right mentorship, and get into the right field of how to grow yourself properly, whether it's clinically or business wise, and however it's going to be, you build a bad habit and then you actually can't rewind that back. And I learned that from her. And we ended up having to part our ways because her clinical skills and where things were, just because she just didn't have the capabilities to have to look back of what she did wrong to be able to correct it. I think the most important thing for me a lot of times is looking at yourself and being able to see it, the mistakes that you made, and learn how to correct it and know how to correct it. That's what makes you grow. When you don't have that, then you're continuously doing the same thing, repeating the same mistakes, not even knowing that you're making the mistakes. And that was something that I learned with her. And that is actually the moment I thought, wow, what's happening with all these doctors that are coming out of the schools? And then they actually, whatever, however it is, I'm not saying corporate is bad or whatever it is, but a lot of doctors tend to move around a lot without really finding their footings of where they should be and learning or not having a proper mentorship. And that's actually kind of what inspired me at that point to become more of a location where I could start to gain people to come in and start to learn the protocol or the recipe of what it would be to be the better clinician and also better business person and learn from whatever it is, because I'm happy to share. I feel like the organization that I'm building and what I'm really trying to gear toward is not to have anyone leave their potential on the table. And I want to drive myself for that. And I want to be a role model for people to learn that and be able to do that as well. Nothing makes me more upset than seeing people who are so capable and not being able to do and leaving their potential behind. And it just really hurts. It's hard for me to see that and hurts me. And I think sometimes people see that as me pushing them too hard. But I'm like, I see that in you. You can do it. And I have to kind of sometimes back off. But at the same time, that to me is what I want to be, supporting that and also create the culture, create that environment for people to be able to have that type of a growth. So that became kind of a pivotal moment for me to be able to start to formulate what it was going to be next. And then also seeing the transition of the doctors who also wanted to have more personalized, individualized type of a transition that they wanted to have, and had a lot of conversations, especially as I was lecturing and then talking to people about, use of different technology, how to make things more efficient and how to give better care and better dentistry just overall. And as yourself developing to be a better clinician, I just thought this is something that I enjoy doing. And I would love to see this and then become more of a recipe for things that can be built out. Am I successful at it? I don't know. I think, as I say, we're still learning, and I still course correct as we go along, because what I thought that 2014 to 15 to 18, 19, of course, the COVID hit, and then we're readjusting. I think it's still a learning process, and I think that's what's making me exciting. I think I'll be bored if I can kind of go, this is what worked, do this, and then it's the same. It's like, oh, okay, that's just another one. But every practice is different. Every doctor is different. Every culture in that practice based on the people who make up that practice is different. So those are all experiences for me to learn and enrich my life. And then also making sure that I'm not leaving my potential behind. And I'm also making sure that I'm applying myself fully. So it's stressful. I'm not going to lie, but it's a stress that's worth it, I think, because I feel that I am contributing to whatever is going to be needed. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to be. And that's the moment of 2014 that led to where I am
Yeah.
today.
That's fascinating. When you talk about the person who didn't work out, and obviously to get to where you are now, there had to have been a lot of people who have worked out very well. Have you come to learn that there's maybe a common thread or something that you see in the people that do work out? That what you said, when you see someone's potential, is it like a gut feel that you get about a person, or is it kind of like something you look for, like certain traits or characteristics that you have found kind of match the ingredients you need to make someone a success in your organization?
I think it goes back to that trust that we initially talked about. A lot of people can have that potential, but sometimes they self-sabotage themselves because they don't let the process happen. And there's a lack of trust, of understanding. You got to give time. Like some of the young people, I'm sure you've seen them too, come out, they think they're going to get the job, and all of a sudden they're going to be at the same place where I am 20 years down the road.
Yes.
And I'm going, it doesn't happen like that. You have to give it a chance. You have to learn, and you have to learn each time. And you got to be able to make mistakes and be able to learn from it. But I think nowadays, a lot of times, nobody wants to make mistakes and they want to be perfect. I'm like, that's not possible. I mean, good thing about dentistry is we're not killing anybody. So I think that's good too. But at the same time, we do have to do our best and make sure that we're caring for the patients. It's all about the patient experience. But I think a lot of times, one, either they're too scared to say something that is truthful. And then the two is that they're not able to really put themselves fully into it and be able to give themselves full. I don't want to sound old, Bill, because I know we probably are kind of in our same age, but I'm like, oh,
Which
these.
is why I think you're very young.
Thank you,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
But I
And
just feel like What's wrong with these kids nowadays? Because I feel that there's a new generations where it's like, I'm not going to do that because that's too much work. For me, there was like no too much work. You're just going to have to put yourself into it. And it doesn't have to be like you're working like, 24/7, but I always feel like you get what you put into it. So if
Mhm.
you're not doing that, then it's going to be tough. So sometimes when I say I get kind of nervous about people or I get upset about people not doing the fullest potential, is like, you have so much potential, but you're not putting your work into it. Or they put their work into it, but not understanding why things are, those type of combinations. So being able to trust the process is going to be there, and then being able to trust the people that you're working with and being able to kind of bring that all together, I think that becomes a good combination. Whether that person ended up being with us or now they learned enough, they feel confident to go out and do their own thing. Awesome. That's great too. But that's kind of the learning process. I think that has to be there.
Yeah. I think I've come to learn over the years that the smartest people that have worked for me are the people who are smart enough to know what they don't know.
Oh my
And
gosh.
know when to ask. Like when I remember I had a mentor early in my legal career, and he had said, you know, when you reach the moment where you think you're underwater, you've already drowned. And I always remembered his comment, because like, and what he was trying to tell everyone was, you know, when try to understand what you don't know and be smart enough to see it coming so that you can go and get the right guidance or mentorship or information to really get it right. And I think the less intelligent folks are the ones who go right through the part they didn't know without knowing it and end up not performing or having a big problem. Have you seen that kind of similar thing?
Yeah, I think that's so right. I mean, I always say it's so hard to know what you don't know. I mean, because how could you, right? But then the only way to know what you don't know is to actually make a mistake because you didn't know it and then learn from it. And I think sometimes that's the hardest part for some of the people because they're so prideful or they are afraid to make mistake. They want to be perfect. Again, it goes back to kind of this, I'm older kind of thing. This like participation trophy generations. Like I'm like, like, no, it's okay to make a mistake. You don't have to be, given a participation trophy each time because you have to learn. You have to actually put your work into it to see the result. So those are the things that I see nowadays where I don't know, it's something that I continuously see, and I don't know if it's something that's gonna change, but I think people have very difficult time. Like this whole like notion of ghosting. Have you heard of that? Or like
Yes.
where yeah, or and just even whether in the workplace, professional things, and even I've seen it some of the doctors even ghosting, and I'm going, you're professionals, like what's going on? So I just feel like those are the things that are out there. It's being accepted as a social norm that I think we need to fight through in order to make sure that we can better ourselves against that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that too, because one of the things I try to tell my kids they're still teenagers. My oldest is just finished her first year in college, and I I try to tell my kids the importance of communication skills, because that is a lost art, I think, in our current generation. And I think technology and society are a big reason why, but a very easy way for a person on the way up to distinguish themselves from everybody else is to have really excellent communication skills and the ability to convey things and to do it in person. And it is a powerful thing. And it's, we might not have thought it was so remarkable when we were coming up, but
Mhm.
now it's kind of remarkable when someone has excellent communication skills, and it is something that probably everybody should work on.
Yeah,
Um,
I 100% agree. Even just being able to say, hey, thank you for the interview, or just even kind of being able to have that handshake and know what to say, those are the
right,
type
being
of things.
comfortable with other
Right,
people.
right.
Which seems so simple for people that are comfortable, but you start to see that it's not so simple for everybody.
Yeah,
Let
very,
let
very
me
weird.
let me dig into you a little bit. I'd love to hear from you your thoughts on, when you reflect on your success, and your accomplishments that you've had to date. And as we talked about before, even though you're very modest about it, what you've done is remarkable and you continue to do it. Have you found that along the way there were some guiding principles or mindsets that you had that when you reflect on it, you say, because I had this way of thinking or this mindset, it really made a difference. It moved the needle for me.
So, I mean, obviously, there's always tons of things to do each day. And then I get that stress from multiple ways that's coming my way. And there are times where I feel like I don't know if I can take any more. And that's the moment that I have to pause. And then I always try to kind of think about, all right, what is the one thing that I gotta take care of right now that is gonna make a difference? So that always seems to be the practice that I've been doing in order to make sure that I can be multitasking. Because I actually think multitasking is misnomer. Like nobody can multitask. That's not possible. Or if you think you can, you're actually not doing anything. You can't be watching TikTok, being able to read on the phone with somebody. You just can't do that. And I always felt that when we're hiring people, we always had something called multitasking as one of the categories or one of the characteristics that we're looking for. Now I'm like not like that. I'm like, I just need you to focus. You need to just be able to focus on a task and be able to complete it. So for me, I think when I look back, even though I thought that I was multitasking, I really wasn't. It's just a matter of understanding how to shift and being able to focus on each time what it's going to be. So those are some of the things that have changed along the way. But as far as the overarching, the principle that I always kind of look for, or that kind of like made me who I am, is I think what doesn't kill you will make you stronger. I know it's like a song, Kelly Clarkson song and whatnot, but I always feel like they're at the darkest moment in your life that you feel that you could not go any deeper or darker or
Mhm.
just that's it. Like it couldn't get any worse. That is actually the moment that where you can arise and then being able to get better with it. I felt like I've kind of gone through those arches of my life. Like that's with my mother's cancer and then, her dying and then me not really knowing where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And then even buying a business for the first time. I mean, I was just overwhelmed because I came out, I had a school debt. I had to borrow every penny because, we were so in debt with my mom's hospital bills and everything. We're still making like $30 a month payment to like 10,000 different people. And then I know, right? Because that doesn't go away. And
No.
then had a house mortgage, had two kids, and then, buying a practice or starting a practice, I should say. It was just like, what am I doing? Am I going to be able to do this? Or is this something that I can do it? I mean, there was a lot of doubt in my mind. I think the only person that can really come out of that and being able to get better from that is myself. So being able to kind of grab yourself, then get out of that and knowing that you can do this and being able to support that, nobody else but you can do that. But I think that's so difficult to do. And I think that's a struggle that I constantly have to deal with because even now there's constant struggles that I'm dealing with. But I have to know that, I have to do this and there are supporting people around me who's going to always support me. But ultimately, at the end, I have to lead and I have to be there. And then ultimately, I'm going to turn around the corners, come out of the dark tunnel, and then be able to look back and go, wow, there you go. Now there's another like 9 practices, med spa, whatever it's going to be. If that is a measure of a success, fine. But then for me, the measure of success is not about what I have, the wealth and whatnot. It's more of my accomplishment that I feel that I came out of it and being able to be who I am right now. So that's kind of like the strength talk for me.
Yeah. Well, there's some great messages in there. The first one is don't be a multitasker. Be someone who can
Right?
focus intensely on one thing at a time.
Especially now.
Yeah, which I think is great. And then maybe to put a quote behind it, the what's the old saying? It's always darkest before the dawn, right?
Oh, yes.
So, um, which which I think
I
is
get that now.
also inspirational. When you talk about for a lot of our entrepreneurs that listen to this show, it's everything isn't always success, and sometimes there's huge challenges, and having that confidence and optimism that that you're going to go from the dark to the dawn, I think is important for everybody to always remember and to remind themselves. So talking about those types of things, when you think back now, there's no successful journey that doesn't come without its challenges, and pitfalls along the way. What would kind of Dr. Kim today tell young Dr. Kim in terms of like, what wouldn't you do? If you could go back and kind of rewrite the script, what are some of the things where you'd say, that's something I wouldn't do, or maybe a lesson you learned from?
I don't know if I would actually rewind anything that I've done. I wish I knew some things that I knew now, younger, then maybe that I would make some of the different decisions along the way. But knowing where I was and how I was and what the circumstances were at a given time, I think that was the best decision that I made moving forward. So, I mean, one of the things that I would, if I had to rewind and do better, is maybe developing deeper, better relationship with some of the peoples along the way. Because I think sometimes I'm so busy doing my things and I tend to forget some of those, like the either friends or family and whatnot. And I'm so focused on some of the business part of it rather than, being able to put that away and then being able to focus on the family more or friends more and that kind of stuff. So I would say kind of that time balance and then being able to delegate your time differently and being able to know when to cut the business side and the personal side. But, that's so impossible with an entrepreneur who running your own business. Your life is business and your business is your life, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So if I could learn how to manage those things better, that may be something. But I don't know ultimately at the end if something would be, if I were to go back, if some of those things would be different in that way, because otherwise I don't know if I would be where I am.
Yeah. Well, that's a great answer. And, a friend of mine always says, who's an entrepreneur, always says he doesn't buy into the work-life balance thing. He always says, to me,
What is that?
it's just one big mushed up ball of my personal life, my business life, my family life. He goes, I'm just me. And it's all part of the same. And I think that when you think that way, actually, there's something comforting in that, which is to not feel like you have to put things in separate buckets, that maybe everything can be part of one big bucket. So anyway, that's his philosophy, and I've kind of adopted it a little bit because I think that there is something to it. So one of the questions I'd love to ask you is, again, kind of reflecting backwards a little bit. When you think about the journey that you've had to get to where you are now, are there any mentors that you had along the way that you can think of who you look back and say, hey, if it wasn't for this person, maybe I wouldn't be here where I am today, or maybe I wouldn't be at this level where I'm at if it hadn't been for the influence they had on my life?
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely my parents. So if I were to go way back, and these are some of the stories that I heard, my mother and my father, they both were young teenagers during the Korean War. So they kind of survived through the Korean War and had to survive through all the hardship war has kind of brought upon them. And then my mother, being the oldest woman, oldest child of the five siblings, she was actually told that she wasn't able to pursue her career in any of the educational level because she had to take care of the younger brothers who were boys. That was kind of the Korean culture thing back then. My father, who actually was a young child from the rural side of Korea, was told that you only need to know how to count till 20 and how to, have the Korean alphabet and to be able to read. And that's it. You don't need any more because they were like farming countryside of the family that back then. He didn't take that. So he actually left in order to pursue more education in Seoul, which is a capital of Korea at the time. And then my mother, as she was working to help the brothers to go to college, she also went to school on her own in order to pursue it. So when they got married and then had me, that was like their biggest, the desire and then the biggest source of pain. So they even told me, I mean, I was a girl and then, in Korean culture, they wanted a boy. So I was the only child. So that's it. They didn't have any more.
You
So
got me, mom and dad. That's
that's
it.
right. Like that's it. But they always said it doesn't matter if you're a girl or not. Like you're gonna have the full career and whatever the education that you want to have all the way through, and we're gonna support you. So they were very determined for that, and that's the reason why they made that choice to immigrate to U.S. for the better education. They felt that there was going to be a better environment for me. So I really appreciate that because I think that is determination. And it was from an era of all the challenges and difficulties that were upon them, they actually overcame and then educated themselves and also instilled that in me. So I think that I have that. So that's obviously kind of an overarching the philosophy behind me all the times, thinking education is important, you got to do, and how amazing is it that you have these educational resources that are available. So I'm always about learning. And then obviously, being in college, I was working at the well, actually in high school when I was working toward this whole oncology side of things, I worked at NIH and under the tutelage of one of the doctor who was there. And she was just so amazing, being able to teach me how to write scientifically, how to formulate things and the research part of it. And she actually became a huge mentor for me to be able to really know how to read things critically and, the research papers and whatever it's going to be. And even when I was in college without mom, she wrote me a letter every week and she sent it to me, just kind of simple, like, how are you doing? These are what's happening in the lab. And these are the things in the news, those type of things.
Hmm.
And I actually didn't really appreciate that at the time. It's like every time I got a letter, I was like, oh, there's a letter. But then when I was graduating and I was putting all this stuff together, and I thought, this is like such a dedication of someone who put that, again, the trust and also the love in me to see how I was going to be doing and then making sure that I'm going to be on the right path for things. So that was very meaningful. And then when I got to dental school, I also met another mentor through also research. And then she became kind of like my mother figure. So I felt like even though God has taken my mother away early on, he always had provided that almost like a surrogate mother along the way.
Yeah.
So I never felt that. I mean, I felt the loss, but I never felt that absence of mom not being there because I felt that there were that provisions that were along the way. So then obviously my faith was one of the things that really kept me going also too, because I think without that, that's very difficult to overcome some of those dark moments of your life, not knowing that, something, the superpower is there to really help you and guide you and have that providence for you.
Yeah, those were some very special people and who obviously took a deep interest in your life and your success and moved the needle for you. It's
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that's the best part about reflection too, is that I think, and as we get older, you appreciate the impact people made more and more as time goes on. When we're younger, maybe it's harder to appreciate it fully as you do now, because also now when you think back as a doctor, as a business owner, and as busy as you are, you can kind of put yourself in the place of like a person who was also a doctor and was busy at the time, but here taking the time to take such a deep interest in you um, is really quite special. What do you try to do today as someone who had such great people in your life? What do you try to do today to pay it forward, so to speak, or to try to be a mentor to others?
That's a great question. I always like to, I think one of the things that people make fun of me is that I always see the best in people and I want to. And I get disappointed when they don't turn out to be the best people that I think they would be, but that's on me, obviously. But I want, obviously, same thing that my kids to have that respect of my journey and then how things are. I don't want to ever tell them. I don't think I ever said to them like, I want to see your report card. How are you doing? You need to get straight A's. Like everybody thinks I'm a tiger mom just because I guess I'm Korean, but I'm like, no, I never do that to my kids. But my kids now, they're both 24 and 21 now, 24 and 22. And they said, I never had to tell them or ask them. It was just the looks. Then that was enough. And I'm like, oh, really? Like, because I'm always thinking, I'm like, I never really said anything. I'm not giving you any pressure. Like, why did you feel pressure? They're like, oh, mom, you didn't have to say anything. It was just your looks. And I'm going, okay. And then another part, my daughter said, it's just because she knew what I was doing and how I was doing. Just watching me doing that is something that inspired her to know that she needed to also do. So I think it's kind of leading by example in that way.
Mhm.
But in the workplace, I see people with so much potential all the time. I would love to always give whatever it is there for them to be able to flourish, whatever that, because, we see in the, especially dental field, we see everybody from like a single mother to everything, you name it. And I wish I could have everything that I could possibly give, being able to provide things for people that they need in order to be able to do what they need to do. But they have to help themselves. And I think that's the hardest part sometimes. It doesn't matter how much of resources you provide. If they don't do it, if they're not in it, I learned over the time, it's like nothing ever happens. And it just builds a resentment at the end because I feel that I'm giving so much that they should be able to do. And they feel pressure because they feel that I'm expecting something. So it's something that I always, and I will never get disappointed. I'm always going to be whatever I did, whatever I'm doing, I want to always give forward. I want to pay ahead. I want to pay forward. But at the same time, I'm hoping that some of these things I see later on that people are going to notice. And then when they reflect, like I am, go, oh, you know what? That time that I worked with Dr. Kim, that time Dr. Kim did this is what made the difference for me. I've heard some of those things, even from the patients. And some of my patients are now in dental field and working with me and things like that. So
Oh, isn't
that's
that great?
very amazing to have that type of experience. And even some of the employees, when they come back and say, what I learned from when I worked with you, this is what made me who I am. I mean, those are the really good moments and amazing moments that I feel, okay, I think I'm doing the right thing. But
Yeah.
I'm hoping that any relationship that I have or any type of interaction that I have with anyone that is meaningful for whatever, it doesn't matter. It could be just a lunch or it could be just simple conversation, maybe something good. And I get to learn something from them. As you said, I do lecture a lot. I travel and I meet a lot of people. And everybody that I meet, I actually learn something from them. And I think that's the most amazing part about that aspect of my life. It's been always been patients. Every patient I ask them, what do you do for a living? Not because I want to know, but I'm actually curious. I get to learn about most interesting jobs that I never even thought it was possible. And I always ask them, like, how did you get into that field? Like, why did you become
Yeah.
that? And those type of things makes me so much more energized about life other than just working on in the mouth. So
Yeah. Well, what you just said really resonates with me because one of the things that I've always loved about being a lawyer to entrepreneurs is I'm always amazed to see people's stories and all the different ways that people manifest success and just to put it in plain language, all the different interesting ways that people make money and develop businesses. Because I mean, I've had clients over the years that I'll say that's a business, like, and then you look at it and find out it's a wildly successful business, and it would be something that you didn't even think that somebody had to do, but they found this little niche, area that served a purpose or a need in a marketplace and built an entire company off of it, which is really something. So tell me a little bit about right now, kind of what's a what's a hot topic for you right now, or something that's on your mind that you've been thinking about that you think people out there should be thinking about or focusing on? What's something that's kind of got you focused these days?
So I'm always technology driven. I always say that I'm on the leading edge of technology that I want to be, not on the bleeding edge. So I want things to kind of work things out.
Yeah.
I don't want my patients to be the guinea pig. I don't want to be the guinea pig. But at the same time, I'm always a little forward thinking and wanting to be able to introduce things that is going to be moving the needle for my field, whatever it's going to be. I think the AI is kind of a huge thing right now. I mean, in dentistry, I always tell my patients, I mean, I have all kinds of technology in my office that is going to provide a better experience for the patient, better efficiency for me, and also making me a better clinician because we're able to do things better with the technology that's there. Whenever I talk to the patients, I always tell them, like, we can do dentistry the same way how we did 50 years ago, 100 years ago. You can still pick up a drill, we can still do the burr, we can still get genome and all those different things. And we can still do these Gook impressions and all those things that you
Right.
kind of hate about dental part, right? But then there are technologies that's out there that are actually eliminating a lot of things. We're using laser that doesn't require numbing. We're do more conservative dentistry. We're using scanners in order to make sure that we can get the impressions done without having all those cookie materials in the mouth that gags you. We're able to take 3D scans now instead of just 2D of the imagings, which should be the standard of care because our structure is three-dimensional. So why are we working on two-dimensional imagings that's coming out of it? And then on top of that, all this AI that's coming out. I mean, the ChatGPT is a huge topic, right? And I always kind of wonder, I'm like, I wonder what kind of the professions that is going to be now moving forward going to become obsolete. Like, I think like radiologist is going to become an obsolete because we have AIs that's going to read all those things and give diagnosis. Just like the Pennsylvania Turnpike toll takers, now they're not there anymore because everything became automatic. I remember talking to a patient who was a toll taker at the time, was making like $35, $40 an hour, just kind of sitting there taking tolls. And I'm like, what kind of job is that? That is so easy. But then he's like, oh, you're getting all this exhaust. So maybe you'll die of lung cancer. I don't know. Maybe it's a high risk type of thing. But I thought that's such a no skill job that pays so much. I don't know why that would be such a job that would exist forever. And of course, lo and behold, in my lifetime, there's no more toll takers. Like a lot of the cashiers or whatnot. I think a lot of those things, I think about what are the trends that's going to come along the way that's going to make a shift or the change even in my field. I don't think people are going to want robot to work on their mouth as a hygienist or as a dentist. So I think that part of it is going to be, and I talked about this with my team. I'm like, your job's going to be safe for a long time because I don't think anybody's going to want robotic hygienist arm coming in doing the work, or even a dentist who's going to be doing the robotic things and then having the things to be worked on for the patients. But having said that, there's so much technology that's coming out and so much AI that's coming out that's going to shift things. And then we have to be more robust and adaptable to know what it is to be able to get it into what we're doing. And I'm sure you feel the same way, Bill, like the things
For
that you're
sure.
doing. Yeah, all these like the whole AI things that's coming out. I'm excited and nervous, and I'm so like amazed about everything that it can do. Like translators, do we even need them anymore? Because now the AI comes out saying that 50 languages they can do immediately and then have actual conversations about it. So those are like, that to me is a hot topic because it affects every day of my life, every day of our lives, and then what we do and how we're doing things.
Yeah, the radiology thing you mentioned is an interesting point. I had one time like I guess like a regular scan done, and it picked up like a little spot, right? And I forget what it's called, but it turned out to be nothing. But what was interesting was they read it and said and looked at the prior scan that my cardiologist had done. And they said, oh, well, we got to get this thing checked out because it didn't appear in this prior scan. And I was like, oh my gosh, of course you get nervous about these things, right? And then as it turns out, when I actually went for a follow-up, the doctor's like, oh no, there it is. It's just really tiny, but there's the exact same spot from like years. It's been there forever, right? It's a whole lot of nothing. But the point is that one person missed it, one person didn't.
Right.
And then it turned out like then when they go back and look at the first one, it was there all along. To your point with artificial intelligence, you'll train every possible diagnoses. The computer will and the technology will learn it, and that's that's a game changer in our field. I couldn't agree with you more. In our field, we have things like if you get a big litigation in there, let's say it's an enormous case with a million documents, and sometimes literally, believe it or not, there's cases with a million documents or
I believe
hundreds of
it.
thousands. And in the past, people would have to read every single document in boxes or print them out or look at them on a computer screen or whatever to try to find the relevant information. Now, all that is in essence scanned in, and there are e-discovery platforms with artificial intelligence and everything else where you can, in essence, be through various searches, sift out the things you actually need to read and be able to eliminate the things that are useless, which, think about, that eliminates a need for an entire team of people, which I think we're going to have to see as time goes on. This is going to happen in a lot of areas. So I agree with you 100%.
My
It's
question to you, Bill, is then
yeah,
when you have things like that happening, do you think that helps people to be able to think better because you have all those information that's there? Or is it making them not be able to now think and just press the button because they're getting the information? I'm always afraid to, not afraid, I guess I'm always questioning having these AIs are making things that human are actually going to develop better, or is it going to actually regress them because so much things are done, like there's all these movies out, like, robots are taking over and that kind of stuff. I mean,
right.
ultimately, human has to drive the whole thing. But I wonder, like, how much of the skill set is now deteriorating because you're not able to know how to research and write papers and think critically. It's like somewhere is given to you, like Cliff Note is given to you, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that there's a lot to that because there's something to be said for the thought process itself in terms of like being able to um, prepare for something or learn something, or even in my field, the deeper you understand the subject matter, the terms, and kind of the whole body of a matter, the better off you are trying to negotiate that matter. Because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, you're going to be, engaged. Two different parties are going to be engaged in a negotiation, and the computers can't negotiate with each other because that comes down to something that has to be very personal. And if you haven't kind of done the work, so to speak, and aren't really familiar with all of the details, I don't think you can get to as good of an outcome, frankly. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see. You always wonder, right? What like, if I go back to kind of like my parents' generation, right? They were wowed by we sent somebody to the moon and space travel, and and there were the computer itself, and then cell phones and so forth. And you always wonder what's next. And I think
Right,
for us, this is what's next, right?
right.
This is kind of the thing that we're going to be saying, wow, I wonder what's going to happen next. I wonder you know, will we all be driving in autonomous vehicles at some point? Will that just be the thing, or will it have its limitations? I don't know. I mean, I guess 10 years from now, we'll have to like get back on and talk about it, right?
Right, right. Because I think
So,
when we're talking about how we're shaping our business and how we're planning for things and what the level of success that you're actually driving your business to, like these are the things that we have to think about. And because you can't be doing what you did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and think that it's going to be the same thing. Because people are different, things are different, technology is changing so much. Even the AI introduction is so much. How is it going to impact and what it means to your business? Like those are the things that makes me like stay awake at night sometimes because I'm like, there are things out there that I think it's amazing that we need to adapt. And then there are things may not. But then how do I know? Like I don't know what are the technologies and what are the things that platforms that are working. Again, I don't want to be on a bleeding edge and then kind of jump in and be like, oh, this didn't work. And then now you got to pick up the mess and try to clean things up. But I think it's knowing those things and being able to shift through all those changes and things that are coming your way. Like what is the big wave that I gotta ride it, and what are the waves that I gotta duck? Or, those are the things that I think that makes me wonder, I wish I had a foresight for,
yeah.
because it would be amazing to be able to see that and be able to apply that. But I guess that I have to work it through again.
Yeah. Well, listen, the key to all that, and I think you nailed it earlier before, you said that you've been a lifelong learner. You always wanted to learn. And I think that's what it's all about, because if you're always trying to stay up on things and continuing to broaden the scope of knowledge, you'll become aware of things when others aren't aware of it. And I think that's the key. So I have a question for you. What's something that people would be surprised to know about you? For someone who, what would I be surprised to find out or know about you?
Oh, I don't know. Let me think. Well, would it be a surprising factor that I play piano? I don't think so, because all Korean people play piano because they were forced to do it. So that wouldn't be a surprising one. But I think it would be a surprising one that in high school, when I was applying to go to college, in order to make sure that I can get as much scholarship as possible, I actually was trying out for Miss America pageant. And
Really?
yeah, so piano was going to be my talent. And then I think I went up to the state level and I could not tolerate these girls around me. And I thought, I think I'm going to just borrow money and then pay back. I don't think I want to do this. So, and then I also model for like hairs and things like that. Because some of the things that I needed to do, whatever I needed to do, when I was in high school, I think I worked like 4 different jobs. I worked at Hardee's, baking biscuits first thing in the morning before I went to high school. I taught piano. I sold shoes. Maybe that's like how I got into the sales side of things a little bit too, being able to talk to people. And then I sold carpet. So I can actually come and measure your house and know exactly how much carpet that you need, I've
Yeah.
done that too. I feel like I've done a lot of the things in order to kind of give the life experience. More, I wanted to learn English. Like that was my thing. I needed to get to talk to more people and then get into the field and learn English. That was kind of my goal to do that. And I think that helped a lot. And then of course, after that, I ended up doing research. So yeah,
Yeah.
I've been a biscuit
See,
maker.
I'm glad that I asked that question because I didn't just get one thing that I might not know about you.
Right?
I got a whole bunch of things. And, it also kind of all ties into your ability to be able to relate to people and understand people because of all that diverse background and experience, which is really cool. And I'm glad that I asked that question because I was like, I'm gonna maybe ask Dr. Kim one more question. And then I was like, well, let me respect your time, but I asked it anyway. So
Oh,
I'm
it's
glad
good.
I'm
Just so
glad
you
I
know,
did.
don't take me to Hardee's because I won't eat their biscuits anymore.
Well, Dr. Kim, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show today. I think this was really a lot of fun. Learned a lot of great things about you, but also about your journey and your successful entrepreneurial journey and your life journey. That really is remarkable when you think of all the challenges that you faced and overcame. So we couldn't be happier that you took the time to come on with us today. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure. It was good to, talk to you. Obviously, I know you're a busy person. I think it's amazing you're doing this type of shows because I think I mean, I'm waiting to see some of the other shows that you're doing with other people too. This is really fun.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.